Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of The View from the Medway's A View With. We are excited to have a very special guest joining us. As you can see, it is former player and manager of our beloved Gills, Mr. Steve Lovell. And for those of you who don't know, Steve, born on July the 16th, 1960 in Swansea, Wales, Steve's football journey has been nothing short of remarkable. He made a significant impact during his time, though, at Gills as a player, where he not only played over 200 matches, but also emerged as a phenomenal goal scorer for the club. He became the club's leading scorer for 4 consecutive seasons and set a remarkable scoring record by scoring in 7 consecutive matches in 1990. His contributions were instrumental in Gillingham's campaign in the late 1980s, including their thrilling run to the 1987 Third Division playoff. With a career that also saw him don the Welsh national jersey and play for notable clubs like Crystal Palace, Millwall and Swansea City, Steve's insights are invaluable. Following his playing days, he has transitioned into management, showcasing his expertise at various clubs, including his latest role as manager of Herne Bay. Today, we will, of course, explore his incredible journey, focusing on his defining moments at Gillingham and what it means to lead and inspire teams both on and off the field. So, without further ado, let's welcome Steve to the show. Steve, how are we?
Fine, Matt. Thanks. Very well. I've had a bath because I've been playing golf today and it was quite rainy. So I've had a quick bath and looking forward to this.
Yeah, and as we were talking off air a minute ago, you seem to be a very good golfer. Love playing a lot of golf, but this is, of course, all about Gillingham and football. But I have to start with yesterday. Look, I'm going to get this one obviously out of the way. You had a really good win, your Herne Bay team, yesterday against Phoenix Sports, 3-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 3-1. Phoenix, they got a new manager in the week and brought in 9 new players. So we thought it was going to be quite a tough task for us. But the boys did well. We did very well. And we ended up winning 3-1, and it could have been a few more in the second half. We missed a few chances, but we take the 3 points, and it was a very good performance, and I'm pleased to get that one under our belt.
Oh, brilliant. And obviously, what are your hopes going forward for the season? Do you want to be challenging for the title? Do you think that's possible for your team this year?
There's a lot of good teams in the league, Matt. There's a lot of good managers, good players, and the league seems to be getting stronger every year. So, yeah, we want to be, obviously, finish as high as we can. We were there last year. We just missed out in the playoffs last year, and this year now we'd like to push on. There's been a new chairman come in and a new director of football working with me. So, with them in place, it's making it a really enjoyable place to be. So, yes, as long as we don't have any injuries, we've played, only played 7 league games this year because of the cup runs that we've had. So hopefully we can get through the next couple of months without too many injuries, and as you say, just keep pushing towards them top places.
Brilliant. Well, look, Steve, I want to take you back, right back into 1980s, where you made your first league debut against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Really, what do you remember about making your first league professional start?
Yeah, it was at Molyneux for Crystal Palace. I remember it was League One as it was then, or the Premier League now. And I was only a young lad. What I remember about it is that my grandmother and my grandfather are actually sending me a telegram to wish me luck for the game, and that's I still remember it now, reading it on my place in the dressing room. I remember Terry Venables putting it and telling me it was there. And making me read it before the game. So that was the one memory I had about that game. I think we lost the game 2-1 or 2-0, I think, but that was a big moment for me having that first game.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, obviously after Crystal Palace, you made your move to Gillingham, which was obviously a significant chapter in your career. As I said earlier, it was 200 over 200 league starts, top scorer for 4 consecutive games. I mean, what do you think contributed to your success there? Because you weren't really a prolific goal scorer before you came to us.
Well, I won't say prolific, but I went from Palace to Millwall, and George Graham brought me to Millwall from Palace, and he sort of turned me into a centre forward. I remember when I went there as a right back or a midfield player to Millwall, and I was one of George's first signings. He went from Crystal Palace before me, and a month later I followed him. And I remember one day, one of our 2 forwards were injured. Dean Neal was injured, and we didn't have a forward. And I jokingly said to him on the Thursday, "I'll play up front. I can play up front." And so we went to the Den. We were playing Brentford on the Saturday. Turned up on the Saturday. The team sheet went up, and there I was up front. He'd stuck me up front, and I ended up scoring 2 goals on that first day. Against Brentford, we beat them 2-1 or 2-0. And I went on an amazing 11-game consecutive run of scoring. I scored 13 goals in 11 games consecutively. I'm not sure if that's still a record, but that was back in the 1984-85 season, I think it was. So I stayed up front under George until he went to Arsenal, and then I came down to Gillingham when Keith Peacock signed me in '87, I think it was '87, after spending 4 years with George at Millwall.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You say originally you was it a right back or a sort of right-sided player? Was that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, in one way, I could play anywhere. And sometimes it can go against you. I remember when I was at Palace, I was playing midfield under Alan Mullery and got into the team and was doing really well. I played in the Premier League or League One as it was then. I had half a season there playing right back and midfield. But Alan Mullery came in and made me a midfield player. And then our left back got injured. Because I was known as the utility player, I went to play left back, and it's not the position for me really, and it ruined me really, and I ended up leaving Crystal Palace because of that. They put me in as a left back, not a left back. Wasn't doing myself any justice, so in the end, I moved on because of that, and because I would love to have stayed at Palace when I was playing midfield, because I felt I was an attacking midfield player and I could bring them something. But left back was definitely not my position much. So I didn't do myself any justice there. So it was best I moved on, and that's why I moved to Millwall.
So obviously you did mention that obviously when you went to Millwall, so after Millwall you came to Gillingham, Keith Peacock brought you in. Why do you think you were so successful under Keith Peacock? Because I mean, I said you 4 consecutive seasons in a row, you were the top goal scorer. So what do you think made you clicked? With you in Gillingham Football Club.
I don't really know. I think it was just the people that we had around us at the time, the players that we had around us. It was really a close community. It was great. All the players, we all got on together. We used to obviously come into in the morning to the ground. We used to be in very early and have a cup of tea and be there late afternoons, and then we'd always go out together in the evenings, and we spent a lot of time together. And I think that camaraderie sort of rubbed off on the football field, and it was a real closeness that we had. And I always felt that in Gillingham, and I've always felt that with football in general. When you're in a team, there's a lot of bonding. There's a lot of things that you need to go well for you to be successful. And I think I was just happy to play with the players I had. They were creating chances for me, and I was just lucky enough to most probably finish them off. But I don't know. I think I've always had that instinct about scoring goals from a very young age. So when I went up front, it became like second nature to me, and just enjoyed the feeling of scoring goals.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that obviously you did equal, so you did equal the club record, obviously by scoring those in seven consecutive matches in 1990. I mean, sort of. I know you mentioned you think you might still have the record of 11 consecutive matches, but what was that mindset sort of going through your head during the 1990 season when you did score in those 7 consecutive games? Did you just feel everything was clicking at the right time, or what?
Yeah, it does, and that's the thing. It there's no given sort of a reason why. It's you've got to obviously take the chances when they come, and some of them, most probably goals I scored, it was most probably the only chance I have in the game. So you had to take it. But I think that was the difference for me. I wouldn't need like 5 or 6 chances in the game to score. I'd only need that one, and it might only come like one in a game, and I just was. I don't know. It was just an instinct. I think that you haven't, and it's funny. Like how you say that. I was talking to my centre forward only this week, and he's been on a bit of a run of not scoring, and he scored 20 odd goals for us last year. A player called Mike Salako, and he's a great lad, and he scored a lot of goals for us. But I had a chat with him because he hasn't scored I think in 4 or 5 consecutive games now. You could see him being a little bit tense and a little bit worried about. So I had a little chat with him and told him, look, this will happen. You'll go through periods where you're not going to score in a number of games, but it'll come back. And once you score one, you'll be back. And he scored yesterday. So, it's nice that, he's back on the scoring track now, and hopefully it'll continue. But, there's no reason for why it happens. It just, you go out there to do your job. You're out there. I'm a goal scorer. You're out there to get your chances, and you've got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. And I think I had a knack of doing that.
You certainly did. I mean, 94 goals, I believe it is. It was the total that you scored for us, Gills, which, I'm all honesty, in 1990, I would have only been 5 years old. So apologies. I don't really remember you that well, but in obviously 1987, you did have the chance, obviously, to with Gillingham to have the playoff run. Which obviously didn't go as well as we would have hoped. But how did you feel about that? Because obviously we had quite a good season that year, and it just obviously let us down. And also, how did you feel playing at under the Twin Towers and obviously at Wembley?
Yeah, it was the thing with that 87 season. It was I came there late on. I came late on from Millwall, and I arrived. I think in early January or February, whatever it was, and I got injured. I got injured straight away, and I never played for a few weeks. It might be in a couple of months. It was just unfortunate I got an injury. So I sort of only played in a couple of the playoff games in '87. I didn't play in the final one at Palace when Swindon beat us. But the following year, then that's when I started. I got myself fit, and that's when I started scoring the goals. The Wembley thing was I played at Wembley with Deal in the FA Vars. That's where I played with Wembley. I've never been there before, and just to play. I had been for the Man City game, and I was doing the radio for that. So that was the only time I'd been to Wembley before that. But no, it was great that '87 season at the end of it, because the boys went to Sunderland and had a great result up at Sunderland, and then we went down to Swindon, and Carl Elsie scored the rocket. He's my best mate, Carl, and he scored a great goal that night, the Elsie rocket, and then we actually had to play in the playoff game at Sellers Park and lost that, which was very disappointing. But no, that season then sort of started me off, and then I started the next year, and that's when I started scoring my goals.
Yeah, a prolific goal scorer you were. I'm going to take you back a little bit. Obviously, when you were playing at Millwall, you did manage to get your first cap, I believe it was, with the Welsh national team.
Yeah.
And you scored your only international goal for Wales against Norway.
Yes.
I mean, how did it feel to represent your country, and what do you remember about the games that you played for them?
Well, the first one I got called up. I remember I was up in Manchester, where my wife's from, up in Stockport, and I was with a family member, and we were watching Match of the Day on a Saturday night. And because you had no mobile phones, you had no way of getting in contact with people in them days. And I'm sitting there watching Match of the Day, and they said over the whoever was presenting the program said, "Look, we got an urgent message for Steve Lovell. If he's watching the telly, we need him to turn up for the Welsh national team. Get yourself to Heathrow as quick as you can, because we were going out to Russia. We're going out to Russia to play in their qualifier." And Joey Jones, who was the right back at the time, got injured, and I was called up to the squad. So I jumped in the car straight away, drove all the way down to Heathrow, then flew out to Russia, and then played a part of the Russian against Russia out in Tbilisi, where we lost the game 1-0. But that was the first cap I had out in Russia in the World Cup qualifier.
What about the goal you scored, obviously, against Norway? Can you remember that pretty well at all? Or?
Yeah, it was. We lost 4-1 in the game. I think it was 4-1. We played at a place called Bergen, I remember. And again, I think Mark Hughes or Ian Rush, one of the two, pulled out of the team at the last minute, and they put me in, and I scored. I think we went 1-0 up, actually. Scored the first goal, and then but we got well and truly beat. But I don't remember much about the goal, actually. I can't remember much about it, but yeah, it was nice to score for your country. And like I said, I represented Wales 6 times, but I was in the squad about 20 odd times. But when you've got people like Ian Rush and Mark Hughes and Dean Saunders and people like that in front of you, you're not going to have many games, are you?
I mean, what an experience having a chance to play with those guys. I mean, obviously, Ian Rush, probably one of the. I mean, I know Ian Rush pretty well. What a cracking player he was. I mean, playing with the likes of him, and as you said, Mark Hughes, I bet that must have been some absolute experience for you.
Well, it was. It was
quite a nice learning curve.
Sorry, Matt.
Did you learn quite a lot playing with the likes of Ian Rush and Mark Hughes?
Well, definitely with Ian Rush, they're both Mark Hughes and Ian Rush. What you learned from them was it wasn't all just about their goal scoring skills. It was about the teamwork and the hard work that they put in defensively as well for the team. Ian Rush would take care of the whole back four on his own. The way that he worked around, and Mark Hughes just was an unbelievable centre forward who scored some remarkable goals, and but they're so brilliant. They were just brilliant just to watch in training and be a part of them in training. You go away with the Welsh team and you're there with them all the time, and it was just a privilege really to be a part of them and be there on the training ground with them. But they're both fantastic players, and Mark Hughes has gone on to be a great manager as well. So. It was just nice to be around these players.
I bet it was. I'm going to jump forward then a bit to your managerial career. I know you started off as a player manager for Sittingbourne. I think you played. Was it Gravesend, Hastings, Ashford? But then we'll get into the big one, the Gang of Four. Which is obviously, it was yourself, Andy Heston-Tyler, Darren Hare, wasn't it, and Mark Patterson, is that correct?
Yeah, Mark Patterson, the 4 of us, yeah. Well,
so how did that actually come about then? Because obviously Peter Taylor was in charge, got let go. And did the chairman just come and say, I'm not too sure what to do, who to pick, so all 4 of you have a go?
Yeah, it was a funny situation, man, actually, because We were all at the club. I was helping Mark Patterson do the under 23s, 18s to 23s. Darren Hare was there as head of football, the youth football. Andy Hessing-Tyler was there as first team coach. So when Peter Taylor left that time, they put the three of them in charge. They put Mark Patterson, Darren Hare, and Andy Hessing-Tyler in charge, and they left me with the under 23s. So that was fine. But we were playing Port Vale away. Mark Patterson got ill, so he couldn't go. So Andy and Darren asked me to go with them up to Port Vale and run the team with them. So I did. So I ended up like taking it on, basically, running it. Darren was sort of in the background a little bit, but it was me and Andy that did most of the work on the training field. So Andy always wanted me to do part of the coaching, and Andy would do the man management side of it. So, and Darren then would do his coaching a bit as well. So it was great. And Mark Patterson, when we got better, he came back with us and became a part of us, but not so much on the training field. He did a lot of the work, studying the teams that we were playing against, studying players. So it worked great, and the gang of four of us really enjoyed it, and we did quite well actually. But I think the reason why we did so well is because we got on very well as well. We all were singing off the same hymn sheet. We all knew what we wanted. We knew we were all hard workers and wanted the place to work hard as well as being structured. So it was a great time. I really enjoyed our time, and I was a bit disappointed really when it came to an end.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when it did come to an end, it was Justin Edinburgh that obviously that eventually came in and took over, but he kept you on as a coach. You know, for me, one of the best managers. No offense, but for me, one of the best managers to come in. But obviously, you had the pleasure to work under him. What was that like?
It was great at the beginning when he came in. To be honest, to Justin, he just let us get on with it because we were doing so well. He had his little bit of an input, but he left me and Andy do most of the coaching. So we continued on that vein, coaching the same way as we'd done it with the gang of four. But Justin obviously was the man, the manager, the focal point of everybody. So we did everything that he wanted us to do. We did it, and we did it the way, obviously, that he wanted to do it. But we coached the team, and we did it till the end of the season. And I remember sitting in the Great Hall with him at a Player of the Year do, and him saying to me, like, next year, I want you to continue doing what you've done this year with Andy. And he said, I'll be the manager and I want you to continue doing that. And I said, yeah, brilliant. That'd be fantastic. But in the meantime, in that summer, Andy went to Leyton Orient. He went to Orient as a manager, so left us. And so Justin brought in Dave, what was his name? Dave Kerslake. Yeah, Dave Kerslake as an assistant. But, you know, I went to Justin and said, look, I'd love to be your assistant for when Andy had gone. But Justin had Dave to come in. So the three of us then worked together, me, Dave, and Justin worked together as a three, like two coaches and a manager. So we had a very successful spell where we were top of the league for a lot of that season. I think it just fell short at the end. But we had a really good group of players and worked very well together.
Yeah, do you know? Yeah, you do. I mean, I just felt that, especially that season, there was such connectivity amongst the whole backroom staff, amongst the team. Everyone sort of seemed to gel with each other. It really did seem quite special. It seemed like he was really keen on getting a unity amongst everyone at the club, Justin. And obviously, it's sad that he's gone now, but, he'll always live long, I'm sure, in the hearts of many. after obviously Justin came in, I know you left in, I think it was around 2016, I think it was, to go and work for Bromley, but you came back in 27 under A.D. Pennock, who was only there for about 9 months. He then obviously left, and you had a chance, I think it was in October, I think it was, to step up as caretaker manager. You had, I think it was a great one of 4 wins in 7 games. I think you even got the manager of the month at one point in January. Was that always something? Did you always sort of have a dream of wanting to manage Gillingham, or was it always, never really at the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, it was always at the forefront of my mind, and in fact, I'd most probably, before this actually happened, I've been to Paul Scally 3 or 4 times before and told him and I went back to really when I first came, when Damien Richardson, I think, got the sack back in flipping heck, it's 92. It was 91, 92 season. I went for the job there, manager's job then, and got to the final interview, and it was between me and Glenn Roeder, and they gave the job to Glenn Roeder. So obviously my contract was coming to an end then. So when Glenn Roeder obviously got the job, I was still there as a player. He had obviously knew that I was wanted to be a manager, so you can guess where I went. I was straight out the door. So that's football. So yeah, and he's just the annoying thing was that he only stayed there for about 3 months, 4 months, and went off to Watford. So that really disappointed me, because when I think Damien left, me and Paul Clark, we sort of took over as the caretakers for a little while until they could get somebody in, and that's when I went for the job. But the one that going back to what we were talking about before, because I'm sidetracked now. I've gone all the way back to 87 or 91, whatever I am. Right. We were talking. What was I talking about, Matt? Before, come on.
So about coming manager.
Oh yes,
and winning the manager league.
Yes. So right, I gotta get. I've done it on a caretaker basis, which I'd love to do it, and I told Paul that I'd love to continue it and everything. But then Peter Taylor, give it to Peter. No, with A.D. Pennock, I was with A.D. Pennock. That's right. It was with A.D. Pennock and Jamie Day and myself, the 3 of us. So we were there. We were doing all together, and then obviously the run of results weren't very good. So A.D. Paul Scally called us up into the office one by one. Because Peter Taylor was there as director of football and above AD and Jamie and myself. So they called us up, and AD got the sack, Jamie Day got the sack, and I went up, and Peter Taylor was sat there with Paul Scally, and I thought, well, I'm going as well. We're all going, but Peter Taylor said, no, I want you to stay and work with me. So I went, okay, lovely. I'd love to. It's not. I don't want to leave the football club. I love the football club. So I stayed. And stayed with Peter for a little while, and then I think, and Peter was only there as a caretaker or like a manager, and I was working with him, and then he went. He just went, and I remember it was amazing how it happened. I was in the car with my wife driving home one day, and I said, well, I've tried the manager's job so many times. If it looks like I'm never going to be a manager there, so I might as well just go somewhere else or do something. I got home, and as I walked in through the door, the phone went, and it was Paul Scally, and he said, Steve, Peter Taylor's left. He said, I want you to step in and be caretaker and do the game for Saturday. And I went, oh yeah, lovely, I'd love to. And it was amazing, because I 5 minutes earlier said to my wife, there's no way in the world I'm going to get a manager's job there, because I've tried so many times, and he has said no, and we've had the gang of 4 that worked, and we still didn't get it. So and it was amazing. So I went in on the Thursday, got every the boys in together, told them the situation, and asked Mark Patterson to come with me. He was running the youth team at that time. So he came with me, and we went and got him ready for Peterborough on the Saturday. And we went to Peterborough and beat them. We beat them 1-0. Lee Martin, I think, scored the goal. And the rest is like what happened is history, really. That's what started it. We went on a good run, and we did well. And we when we took over, I think we were bottom of the league. And that season we finished 17th or 16th, I think, that year. We got them out of the relegation. And then the following year, we got up to 11th or 12th in the table. And I left two games before the end of the season.
I'm going to ask then, for me, I believe this is probably one of your best achievements as manager of Gillingham. In January 2019, I believe it was, Cardiff City came to town.
Yeah.
And a packed Priestfield. Can you remember the game well?
Yeah, I can. I remember them coming. And remember, I think Elliot Liss scored the goal. I think he scored the goal. 1-0 it was. He scored it at the Rainham end, and they didn't hang about after the managers. To be honest, he didn't hang around. But it was one of them things at a Premier League club. I think he came and made some changes into the team because he thought it was going to be a pretty easy game. But we stuck to our tasks, and we won the game. And then we went and played. We got drawn Swansea in the next round, which was quite ironic, really.
Well, yeah, your hometown club drawing Swansea. I mean, obviously we'll forget about the result, but I mean, what was that like? Obviously, knowing that you were going there.
Yeah, it was great, really. And Potter, the manager, he was brilliant with us. He looked after us, and it was great to go to the Liberty Stadium and play down there. I think we lost 4-1 in the end, I think. And I remember Darren James coming on in the last 10 minutes and running the whole length of the pitch, I think, and beat everybody for pace and smashing it in for the fourth goal. And we were just in awe of him, really. He was such a good player, and they were a good side as well. They were excellent. But it was a good day out. It was a good day out. The fans, had a good day, and it's nice to go to these stadiums and play against the better teams. That's what the FA Cup's all about. And it was disappointing to lose, but we'd had a good run. So it was a nice place. If you're going to lose, is back at home, I suppose.
Absolutely. Obviously, we touched on him a bit earlier, but I do have to ask. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen the news regarding Paul Scally, who's now obviously left or has been removed as director of Gillingham Football Club. But how was your relationship working with him? Because obviously you've mentioned a few times you've had a few meetings with him, and obviously you'd gone and sort of asked him, told him you wanted to be a manager going forward. But how was it working with him directly?
It was fine. I've been at the club a long time. I've worked as a head of the community for 8 years. So I had close dealings with him from a business point of view as well as a football point of view. He knew the way I worked. I knew the way that he worked. We had a few fallouts through the community work as well, where I disagree with some of the things he would do or wanted to happen, and I would tell him, but he knew I was a strong character and I stood up for myself. But all in all, when as a coach, as a manager, he's always looked after me. He's always done good by me, really, and I can't say a bad word really about him in that respect. From a business point of view, he always was honest with me. Always told me what the budget was for players, and I knew that was what I had to work with. So it was never any we never had any fallouts. Never had any fallouts when I was manager. He let me do my managing. He would help me in any way I wanted to. Obviously, as everybody knows, Gillingham at that time, we didn't have the biggest budget, but it was workable, and we made it work. So never had any problems. It was only when it came to the end, when I left, it was a little bit. I was a little bit sort of upset, I suppose, and disappointed really when about the Steve Evans when he came, and that sort of upset me a little bit. But apart from that, it's football. He was only doing what he thought was right for the football club. In the end, it didn't turn out that way. But obviously, he only had the football club at heart.
Do you still get a chance to chat to him? Have you actually spoken to him? Obviously, since you've left the club, or
yeah. I like I left the club then just before the Steve Evans came in, and then obviously when Neil Harris was it? No, not Neil Harris came, and then when Steve Evans left. He asked me to go back the January to help out because Steve had left him in the lurch a little bit and he didn't have a manager, and Paul wanted me to go and just take over them for a month until they found a manager. So I went in and tried to help him, and the hardest thing about that, it was during the window. So you're going in, you're just going into a group of players not in the best place because they haven't been winning games. You're going in to try and sign players through the window, and it was quite a hectic month, and it didn't work out really. I think we played 4 or 5 games. I think I only got 1 draw out of the games, and signed a few players who were perhaps on a whim that we needed someone in, but it didn't quite work. And that's when I left, and Neil Harris came in.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a very sort of tough period sort of after Steve Evans had stepped away. Yeah, I think you had, I think it was four games. If I'm not mistaken, there was a very heavy defeat in there. But you always seemed like you were somebody that will always sort of were going to be willing to bleed, blue for the club and give everything you could. So, I'm sure you kind of felt quite sort of almost hurt by those 4 games where you couldn't really give it your all. And as you said, you were right in the middle of a sort of a transfer window where you didn't really know what was going to happen. Were you going to be the full-time manager or what? So, I mean, look, from a Gillingham fans' point of view, I will always say thank you because you've always stepped up and you've always come in at the right time. But I did want to quickly go back and ask you. We've had a couple of questions come through, and this one I'm going to show you part of it, which was who would you buy past and present and why? So there's part of the first question from Steve was if you had the opportunity to rejoin Gills as a manager and you had an unlimited budget, what players would you bring in past and present, and why?
Well, I've been to watch them a couple of times this year, and I think they're missing a target man or an out-and-out goal scorer. It seems that they've got some really good players down there who can play football from the back to the front. But then when you get into them in sort of wide areas and up front, there's no firepower. I don't think they've got anybody. So I'd go and try and sign someone who was but you're governed by, again, you're governed by finances. So it's so easy to go and say, oh, we'll have him or we'll have him. We'd love to have probably Haaland, wouldn't we? We'd love to have him in our teams. Everybody would. But, I think Wrexham have done it well. They've gone and signed some good forwards. But again, they spent millions of pounds on it. So it's relative, really. But I think if Gillingham, the new manager, could get a hold of a centre forward, I think someone who's going to stick the ball in the back of there. Everybody's after him. I know they are. But I think from a Gillingham point of view, I think you need to start, they're creating, but they're not finishing games off. So a good centre forward, I think, would be on my way, sort of my wish list, if you like, if I was back as a manager there.
Maybe a young Steve Lovell, if we could get him. How about that?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'd love to. The thing is, a long time since I've been playing, but you still miss it. You still miss that feeling of putting on a pair of boots and running around, and I think it's the joy and that you give to supporters. I think that gives you the joy back yourself when you see people happy with what you're doing. It's like being on a stage as an actor or a singer. People love to see that, and you're giving people sort of happy memories and joy of what you do. And I think that's what I loved about playing football and scoring goals. And on the other side of it, when you miss chances, again, you take it on board that you're letting people down. There's thousands of people in that stadium that you're letting down. And I always felt that. I always felt I had to go and do what I can to please everybody in the stadium. And even as a manager, that was my aim. As a manager, I was a supporter. I was a supporter of the football club, and I took everything to heart. So it was, it had to be done properly. I had to do it 100%. Otherwise, there's no point doing it at all.
Absolutely. Have you had a chance to meet Brad and Shannon, the Gillingham owners?
No, unfortunately, I haven't. No, I haven't had a chance to meet them. I believe they're really nice people, and I think they're really great for the football club, and they've done an amazing job so far. And I hope that they have great success there, and they enjoy their time, because Gillingham is crying out for a little bit of success, and there's a great fan base down in this part of the world. And we'd love to see the club do well, and I'm one of them. And as I say, I always look out for their results every weekend, and I hope that they start being successful again.
Well, I'm talking about obviously success. I'm sure you've seen some of the results from this year. I will actually go ask, out of the sort of the current crop of Gillingham players, is there any player that stands out? Currently play for the team. Is there any player that stands out as a sort of a quality signing that you think could maybe a little bit of work, but could really become almost a Gillingham legend?
And this is what I'm saying. Legends are built from either goalkeepers or centre forwards. And I don't mean that to be nasty to all the other positions, but they're the ones that get the goals. They're the ones that people look at, because you can have hundreds of defenders, hundreds of midfield players, but you only have one really leading goal scorer, and you have one really good shot stopper. So I think from that point of view, you've got a team at the moment. I think Gillingham have got a team at the moment that are all good players as a group. There's no individual, and that's what I was trying to say about an individual. You need someone who's going to be a creative player. Like we had Bradley Dack when I was managing, fantastic. He would create, and we built a team around Bradley. I changed the system from I think Peter Taylor was playing a 3-5-2 or whatever. I changed it because Dacky was playing wide left with Peter Taylor, but I could see Dacky as a number 10. He loves to be on the ball, loves to get on the ball. So we changed our formation. We played a diamond. And built a team around Dacky. So he became that number 10, and we were successful with it. So yeah, I think the current players, I think they're all sort of good players in this league, and they're a good team player. But there's not one individual. I don't think that's I can go and watch and go, oh, he's a little bit different to everybody else. I can't. The games I've watched, I can't see that. I haven't seen that, and that's what I'm saying to you about them getting a centre forward. Perhaps if they had someone there as a good target man, and I think that would be great for them. And then obviously I think that Gillingham will start being a little bit more successful.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we've put a lot of, obviously bought a lot of players in the summer. We are really sort of trying to push to get out of this league. Do you think it's potentially doable this year for Gillingham?
Well, I think it's a bigger chance this year than ever before. They've built a good squad. They've got a good manager in there, and he seems to be doing a really good job with the players he's got. I think in any football now at any level, I think it's becoming so much more tactical, and managers are really knowledgeable about the game, understand people's um, their strengths and their weaknesses. And I think it's sometimes it's like a chess game. It's sort of it's not very often you get a 5 or 6-0 result now. It's very tight. The games are very tight. So I think that's one of the reasons I think why I think Gillingham can do it, but they've got to start. As I said, I keep going back to it, but they've got to start scoring goals, and more than perhaps one every 2 or 3 games. They've got to start, and perhaps in the next window they'll be able to get a forward in that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just had a comment come through. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. So, yeah. Chris, my co-host, big thank you to Steve for coming on and speaking with us tonight. Really appreciate your time. And Matt and I will definitely be coming down to watch a Herne Bay game as soon as it is Chris's hometown club. I myself live in Canterbury, so it's not a million miles away.
Well, bring your boots. Bring your boots. You'll have a game. You might get a game.
Done. I've already scored at Priestfield, so now I just got to score at Bay's ground. Yeah. One of my colleagues, from the View from the Medway, Warren. He did want me to ask you this question. Very simple, forward word question, but who was the worst manager you've had at Gillingham?
Flipping heck! As a player.
Yeah, I think he was expecting a certain answer, but just off your own. Is there any manager you really didn't get on with?
Keith Birkinshaw.
Yeah. Any particular reason?
I just found him so hard to approach as a player. He came from Tottenham. He tried and get us to play like Tottenham. And we were in Tottenham by a long shot. I remember it's a funny story. I remember Alan Walker, the centre half. You remember Alan Walker? I used to play with. Alan would head it and kick it, and that was about it for Alan. And he was trying to get him to play out the back as a running centre half, and it wasn't on really. It wasn't on for Alan, and I think that's why perhaps we weren't that successful under him. Because he was asking players to do things that they just couldn't do. And not just Alan, but the rest of the team as well. We weren't equipped for playing the Tottenham way. We were hardworking and perhaps not so skillful as Tottenham. But Keith Birkinshaw, I didn't like my time with Keith. I didn't enjoy training. I didn't like going in. That's the only time I think in my whole career that I didn't like going into training, and I don't know. A lot of people disagreed with me and said he was fine, but I found him very, very miserable, and someone that I didn't enjoy working with.
So fair enough. Well, I hope that's answered your question, Warren. So. I will ask if you ever, if Brad and Shannon were to pick up the phone and say, Steve, look, we're in trouble. We need somebody to come in and take over the reins, either on a caretaker basis or full time. Would you come back?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's something that the club is. I've been there as a player or manager or coach over 20 odd years, and it's still, when I go down and watch, it's still great to listen to the supporters and the way they support the club, that Rainham end, and the whole club. And it's great to see the crowds are picking up, and they're in their 6,000s and 7,000s now, which is great. and that's what's needed. Is the team needs support, and they need support all the time. I know, and they give it, and they do give it, and they deserve the success. But yeah, I of course I would. I would never turn down a chance of managing in league football. But when it's your home club, yes, definitely, without a question.
Oh, brilliant. Well, look, I'm glad to hear that. And look, we are coming to the end of the interview. And look, before we go, I'd always like to do a little 3-2-1 with all my guests. So this is basically three players, three of the best players you've ever had the opportunity to coach. I've got two of the favourite grounds you've ever played at or managed at, and the best goal that you've ever scored.
Right. The three best players, they've turned out to be really, really international players playing in the Premier League. And they were youngsters when I coached them. I was at Charlton Academy, and I worked in the Charlton Academy for 6 years under Steve Avery and Paul Hart. And we had Joe Gomez, Ezri Konza, and Casey Palmer. Three players, obviously Joe Gomez at Liverpool, Ezri at Aston Villa, and Casey Palmer now, who has gone to Hull. But them three were, exceptional youngsters. In the sort of later years, they have obviously developed. But to have being a part of them as youngsters coming through when they were 14, 15, 16, them years are so important for them youngsters to learn the things that they will take them on into their career, and to be a part of that was great to be and seeing them on the telly and doing so well now. But in the latter years, when I was manager, the one person who I really loved to coach was Tom Eaves. I loved Tom, and he came to us, and he was always willing to learn. We used to go in for extra finishing and training, because we knew we had a quality player there at our level. And this is what I'm saying about individuals being at the club and being really someone that you can look up to and sort of be a focal point. And Tom was that. He was a goal scorer, a great lad, and really wanted to learn. So they're the players I loved working with. The two grounds, I would say, when I played for Wales out in Russia, in Tbilisi, it was 83,000 people there. So that's one of the grounds. And the other ground that always sticks out in my mind is Goodison Park. The atmosphere there is tremendous. That stand, when you come out of the tunnel, and that stand, it's as if that stand is over the pitch. I never forget. I remember playing there for Palace against Everton, in the Premier League, or League One as it was then, and we lost 5-0. And Bob Latchford, I think, scored 4 goals that game. But the atmosphere was tremendous. And the goal, my best goal, I've tried to find it everywhere, and I can't find it. But it was a goal, but it was Doncaster away, back in must have been 88. I think it was 88, where I think Harvey Lim kicked the ball. It came over my head on the halfway line. I had one touch on my thigh, and then volleyed it from the halfway line, and it went in straight over the keeper's head into the net. And I've tried to find it everywhere. Can't get it anywhere, but I remember it. I remember it well. So that was my best goal.
Do you know, I'm sure some Gills fan watching this will be able to find it in the old archive somewhere.
I've tried. All the family have tried. They've given me like DVDs of my goals. They put them all together, and my son and all my family have tried to find it. But they can't find it anywhere, nowhere. But there we are.
Oh, brilliant. Well, so I've got to say thank you so much, obviously, for coming on tonight. Obviously, before you do go, got to have a bit of a chat about, obviously, Herne Bay, so going forward. So, yeah, as I said, you're 7 games into this season.
Yeah.
You've been there now. This is your second year at the club, correct?
Yeah, yes, me and Mark, second year. Mark's my assistant, my son. So yeah, we were at Ramsgate 2 years ago, and then we went to Herne Bay to start last season, and then this is our second season at Herne Bay. Yeah, so I enjoy it, love it there. It's a great club, nice and friendly. It's an up and coming club, really. They're building up all the community work with all the kids football and everything. So it's I really enjoy it there. Really enjoy it.
What have you thought about potentially asking the club? But asking Gillingham about getting any sort of players on loan, any youth players on loan, or
Yeah, we had. I speak to Brian quite a lot, Brian Bull, and Hesse and Kenny Jacket. We got Tate Holdham, the goalkeeper. He came out on loan to us earlier on in the season, but he got recalled because one of the keepers got injured, so he got recalled, and then. So Tate, now we played against him. Funny enough, yesterday he was in goal for Phoenix.
yeah,
So we had him, and yeah, I'm always in contact with Brian. We usually have a friendly pre-season friendly every summer against the Gillingham 11 anyway. So it's I've still got connections down there, but yeah, it's nice. It's a nice connection to have, and obviously if we can help players to come and play football at a man's level, then we'd help them out.
brilliant. Well, Steve, honestly, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been great, and thank you for asking me.
No, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And Gills fans, look, if there's an away game and you're not going, pop down to Herne Bay, come and see Steve. I'm sure he'll be willing to come over and shake your hand and have a chat with you. He's always accommodating. And don't forget, guys, tune in tomorrow evening from 8 p.m. From the Monday assessment, where we're going to have a lot to talk about, especially after yesterday's 2-1 loss. But Steve, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, this has been The View from the Medway, A View With. Thank you very much. Good night. And as always, up the Gills.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thank you.